What's going on, everybody? It's Joel here, and today we're going to be talking about the performance of the NOBULL Trainer Plus. Alright, so if you haven't watched my initial impressions and differences video between the Trainer and the Trainer Plus, I highly recommend that you check that out before you watch this video. In that one, I talk mainly about the construction differences between the two shoes, and I give you my initial thoughts. Today, we're mainly going to focus on the performance aspects of the Trainer Plus and what it's been like to be training in these for the last month or so. But first off, let's review the construction and build quality of the Trainer Plus. So it still has the super fabric upper, which is a bunch of little ceramic pods that surround a greater mesh material. On the Trainer Plus though, the mesh is more perforated than it was on the original Trainer, which basically, I mean, there's really no perforations on the original Trainer. So what that leads to is a little bit more breathability. And in my use, I didn't really notice them to be that much more breathable. I have both of the shoes on right now, and like I really don't notice it. But to be honest with you, I never really noticed my feet like overheating or getting too hot or anything. So for me, that it really hasn't been an issue, and if I don't notice it getting hot, then they're probably breathable enough. The lacing system on the Trainer Plus has also been improved over the original Trainer, and it basically uses like a strap kind of lacing system. So what happens is that there are some eyelets that are tucked away underneath the upper, and those eyelets connect into some straps that go down the sides of the shoe. Basically, gives you a more customized fit when you lace these guys up in comparison to the more like direct lacing system of the original NOBULL trainers. I thought the fit and the midfoot of the shoe was pretty good on these, but one thing that I didn't like about the Trainer Plus, and this was the first thing that I noticed when I took them out of the box, was that the edges are really poorly cut on top of the eyelets. And I mean, a lot of people are going to see that as kind of a small thing, but to me, it's a huge detail, and like I feel like stuff like that is gonna keep NOBULL from actually being like a high-end brand. That's not pleasant to look at, and I think a lot of people will feel the same way when they see this shoe, and they're spending $140 on something like this. But moving on, the tongue of the Trainer Plus is kind of the same micro suede material that was found on the original Trainer, but it's a little bit thicker, it's a little bit more padded. There's some small perforations in comparison to the bigger perforations. I thought that it was comfortable feeling, but I don't know why it's not gusseted on the side or anything, because it tends to want to slip around, and that was a huge complaint that people had on the original Trainer. It was a quick little fix, and they could have done it, but it's oddly missing on the Trainer Plus. The insole of the Trainer Plus is pretty much identical to the original Trainer, and I didn't feel like it was lacking. Some people disliked it, but I thought it was just fine. It's an anatomically molded insert, and it gives you decent underfoot cushioning, like initial underfoot cushioning. It doesn't slip around for me personally, and I've heard that complaint in the past, but these shoes are still fairly new, so we'll see how they'll hold up over time. All right, so moving on to one of the most touted new features of the Trainer Plus, and that is the increased midsole. So what they basically did was they took the original midsole and double stuffed it for the Trainer Plus. So technically, there is a more cushioned midsole, but it doesn't really feel that different. I think that if you are a bigger person, a heavier person, you might notice it more than like an average sized person, maybe a lighter person. But the actual feel of the midsole, the feel of the foam is pretty similar between the two shoes. And that's not a bad thing for certain things, but I wouldn't go and say that it's that much more comfortable than the original Trainer. But it is for sure a little bit more cushioned. One thing that is a huge difference between the shoes is the outsole. The grip of the Trainer Plus is excellent. I felt like whatever surface that you put these shoes on, they did a really good job with traction, especially on the rope. And another thing that you will notice is the increased contact area between the two shoes, which basically I want to say is about 10% more, but it's very, very noticeable between the two shoes. The Trainer Plus is just that much more stable than the original Trainer. But of course, with those material differences, you're gonna get an increase of weight. I weighed the original trainer at 10.5 ounces and the Trainer Plus came in at 13.1 ounces, which honestly, it's not terrible, but it is not the direction you wanna be going in when you're upgrading a shoe. And the drop between the two shoes is still a 4mm drop. All right, so for sizing your Trainer Plus, I'm gonna recommend that most people can probably go down half a size with them. So initially when I bought the Trainer Plus, I bought them in my normal training shoe size, which is a 10. The only area that kind of bothered me was the metatarsal area. It did require a little bit of breaking in, but after that, I found the shoes to be pretty comfortable, but they had maybe a little bit too much space. So I went and I tried the 9.5, I sized down, and with the 9.5, I found that they were pretty snug initially, not totally uncomfortable, but my feet did, or my toes made contact with the front of the shoe. After one workout, my feet swelled up, and when the blood started pumping into them, I found that these shoes were very, very uncomfortable. Since then, they've broken in a little bit more, but I still don't like the fact that my toes are at the very front of the size down shoe. But do keep in mind that I do have Morton's toe, so my second toe is bigger, is longer than all of my other toes. If you do not have Morton's toe, then I would say that sizing down is probably okay. If you had wide feet, then I probably would stick with your normal training shoe size. They're not very narrow, but you definitely do not want to be sizing them down if you have wide feet. If you have Morton's toe, then I'm gonna say you're probably going to have to deal with your normal training shoe size and the extra space that it will have for you. For me personally, I'm like in between a 9.5 and a 10. My right foot's a little bit bigger, so I'm just gonna have to deal with the size 10 and a little bit more space. With the 9.5, they just, after a long workout, they just become too uncomfortable for me. All right, so when it comes to flexibility and comfort of the Trainer Plus, I'm gonna say that it's kind of a wash between the original trainer and the new ones. So they did add more midsole, which should technically add more cushioning, but not necessarily more comfort. I found that the Trainer Plus was it's just generally less flexible than the original trainers, which is one of the reasons why I like the original trainers. Another thing that is not that great between the two shoes is that you do get more weight between the original shoe and the Trainer Plus. So when it comes to running, if you are a heavy-footed person, I'd say you probably do better in the Trainer Plus. But if you are a pose runner, you're used to doing like midfoot, forefoot running, then I think the original trainer is probably going to be still better for you. I found that in the Trainer Plus, it made me want to heel strike a lot more and just run more heavy footed. Whereas the original trainer, they're light on your feet, they're more flexible, and I actually am one of the people that didn't mind running in the original trainer, but that's after years and years and years of developing like a midfoot, forefoot strike, just because running in training shoes, it's just not that comfortable. So that's just how I've developed my run over time. With the Trainer Plus, they do technically have more cushioning, but I didn't really notice it that much. And I did notice the fact that they were just a little bit more clunky and a little bit less flexible than the original trainers. When it comes to plyometric movements, the Trainer Plus is definitely gonna feel more clunky in comparison to the original trainer, but I didn't think that it was a huge detractor for most of the stuff that you're gonna do inside the box. Multiple burpees were actually pretty comfortable because of the upgraded contact area at the toe bumper. I thought that that did a really good job in helping you get up off the floor pretty easily. You could just jam your toes into the ground and it'll just pick you right on up. I didn't notice that that actually was a detractor for wall walks either, which I thought it was gonna be a little bit too grippy for wall walks, but I managed to slide down the wall just fine in these shoes. You're definitely gonna notice the extra heft and bulk of these shoes when it comes to box jumps, but I didn't think that they were unresponsive or uncomfortable to use for multiple reps. And the same thing goes with double unders. Even though that they are a little bit less flexible, a little bit more heavy, I still was able to snap off a bunch of double unders in a row and not really feel it in my feet that much. All right, so the area that I thought the Trainer Pluses were a huge upgrade in over the original trainers was when it came to stability. I thought the original ones were okay, but the Trainer Pluses are on another level. These things are excellent when it comes to lifts. Even though there's a more midsole, it doesn't ever feel like these are disconnected or unresponsive. And I thought that just generally any kind of lift in these shoes felt really, really good. So if you watched my initial impressions video, I talked about me hitting a 225 snatch and how big that was for me. I haven't hit a 225 snatch in years, like since 2017. And while I don't think that the only reason that I hit it was because I was wearing these shoes, I definitely think that they helped. After that, the very next day, I hit a PR squat clean, and though it wasn't the prettiest clean in the world, I still hit a PR, which was awesome. And even before that, I hit a PR tie, which was actually a pretty good clean, which was at 300 pounds. The stability of these shoes is awesome. The grip and added contact area makes lifting in these, it just feels like super planted when you hit the ground. And the same thing goes with squatting, even though, like I said, there is more midsole, it just never feels like these shoes are disconnected from the ground, which can happen when you add more midsole stack height to a shoe. One thing that people might not like or might take getting used to is just the fact that they're a little bit taller, but they don't ever feel like narrow or laterally unstable or anything like that because of the way that the midsole and the outsole is shaped. It's got a very flat contact area with the ground. The chevron pattern gives you excellent grip on pretty much any surface that you're on, whether it's just like rubber flooring, whether it's pavement, whether it's like wooden boxes or platforms. I thought that the whole outsole and midsole design of the shoe was excellent in that area. Another thing that I really like that helped the stability out is that the shoes hold your feet in place. They don't let you go shifting side to side, and that has to do with fit, but it also has to do with the way that the upper is constructed. The shoe kind of just like cups your foot in place, and it doesn't let you kind of slide laterally, which I really liked on this shoe. Another thing that these shoes did really, really well is I think that these are probably the best shoe for rope climbs. The grip on these is ridiculously good. Like they just grab onto the rope, and it's kind of crazy how well they hold the rope. And they don't pull off your feet on the way down, which is a problem that I have with a lot of shoes nowadays. When you're sliding down the rope, they just want to go sideways on you and just fall off your feet. I didn't notice that problem in these shoes. They stayed locked down to my feet. And so I think that like these shoes might actually be my new go-to rope climbing shoes. All right, so to sum it up, the Trainer Plus retails for $140, which is only $10 more than the original Trainer. So I think that what NOBULL had intended was they just made a shoe to live alongside the original Trainer. The Trainer Plus is not meant to replace the original Trainer. It's just meant to be something different and meant to give you a choice between the two shoes. Personally, I prefer the Trainer Plus. For $10 more, I would take the added stability. I still think that they're probably a better shoe for most of the things that I want to do. The added weight and flexibility don't really, or less flexibility, don't really detract from a lot of the stuff that I want to do inside the box, like burpees, box jumps, double unders. But the added stability is definitely noticeable between the two shoes, and that's why I really like the Trainer Plus. I have running shoes for workouts that I'm doing a lot of running in, so I don't really think that this is something that I would take out for longer running workouts, but I think it's fine for, you know, your odd 400, couple rounds of that. But I think that if you're looking for the lighter, more minimal shoe, the original Trainer is probably still the way to go. And I don't think that you should go off and sell all of your original Trainers and get the Trainer Plus. I think that you can have both of these shoes. You can use them for different workouts. So while I think that the Trainer Plus is an upgrade kind of over the original Trainer, I don't really think it's the upgrade that most people were looking for after 5 years. And I do like the shoe. I'm not hating on it at all, but I just think that more could have been done with the Trainer Plus to like set it off from the original Trainer. If you're a fan of NOBULL, you're probably gonna like it, but I still think that it doesn't really stack up to the current training shoes on the market, like the Metcons, Strike Haze, or Rads, which I think are the top 3 training shoes at the moment right now. But I do think that it has its place. It's not a bad shoe. If you're a fan of NOBULL, then I think you will like the Trainer Plus. If you guys have any questions about the NOBULL Trainer Plus, feel free to leave them in the comment section. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and thanks for watching.